Have you ever looked at a map of the United States and just wondered, how did it get so big? How does a country of just 13 states on the Atlantic coast become this giant that stretches from sea to shining sea? Well, today, we're going to unpack that incredible story, a journey of landmark deals, pivotal wars, and just explosive growth.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1789. George Washington is the first president, and the United States is basically just this little strip of land hugging the eastern seaboard. The western border? That's the Mississippi River. And beyond that, well, that was all vast territory controlled by European powers like France and Spain.
So the big question is, how did we get from that to a country that stretches all the way to the Pacific Ocean? Well, let me tell you, it's a wild story. We're talking about ambition, high-stakes negotiations, outright war, and some bargains that are just, honestly, hard to believe.
All right, let's get into it. The first giant leap westward came in 1803. And funnily enough, it all happened because of a power struggle happening thousands of miles away over in Europe. You see, for American farmers and traders back then, the Mississippi River was everything. It was their highway to the world, and the port of New Orleans was the main gate. The problem was Napoleon Bonaparte and France controlled all of it. President Thomas Jefferson was seriously worried that France could just turn off the tap on this vital trade route. So his solution was pretty direct. Send some diplomats to France with one simple mission: buy the city of New Orleans.
But Napoleon, he had way bigger problems. He was gearing up for a huge war with Great Britain, and wars cost a lot of money. His grand plans for a North American empire were suddenly on the back burner, so he completely shocked the American diplomats by offering them a deal that blew their minds. He didn't just offer New Orleans, he offered them the entire Louisiana Territory.
And the price for all this? A jaw-dropping $15 million. You know what that works out to? About 4 cents an acre. It was, without a doubt, one of the greatest real estate deals in all of history.
Just look at this. The scale of this change is incredible. Literally overnight, the United States doubled in size. This wasn't just empty land either. It was a crucial safety valve for a nation whose population was exploding. The floodgates for westward expansion were now officially wide open.
Okay, so the West is now open for business. What's next on the agenda? Well, the nation's focus starts to shift south, to securing its borders, especially with Spanish-held Florida and that vast territory we now call Texas.
Now, this wasn't a simple one-and-done deal. It was a whole chain of events. It started in 1819, when the U.S. bought Florida from a fading Spanish empire. Then, Mexico wins its independence from Spain and actually invites American settlers into Texas. Well, so many of them show up that they soon outnumber everyone else, declare their own independence in 1836, and 9 years later, the U.S. annexes the Republic of Texas, adding another massive piece to the puzzle.
But bringing Texas into the Union created a huge new problem. The United States and Mexico had very different ideas about where the border actually was. And that dispute, it would lead directly to war.
After 2 years of fighting, the U.S. was victorious. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the war, and in it, Mexico handed over an enormous swath of land known as the Mexican Cession. We're talking about the land that would become California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and parts of a few other states. Just a massive acquisition. And here's a fascinating bit of historical trivia for you. As part of that treaty, the U.S. paid Mexico $15 million. If that number sounds familiar, it should. It's the exact same price it paid for the Louisiana Territory all those years before. But hey, not all expansion came from fighting. Around the same time, the U.S. and Great Britain were peacefully sorting out their competing claims to the Oregon Territory up in the Northwest. With that treaty settled, the dream of a nation stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific was finally a reality.
So, the continent is secured. But America's ambitions didn't just stop at the coastline. The country began to look outward across the oceans.
Two key acquisitions really set the stage for this new phase. First, in 1867, the U.S. bought Alaska from Russia for just $7 million. People at the time mocked it, called it Seward's folly. Then, in 1898, after years of influence from American businessmen, the U.S. formally annexed the Hawaiian Islands, realizing just how important they were as a strategic naval base right in the middle of the Pacific.
And that same year, 1898, things exploded just off the coast of Florida. Cuba was fighting a brutal war for independence from Spain, and American sympathies were totally with the rebels. Then, the U.S. battleship Maine mysteriously blew up in Havana Harbor. Cries of "Remember the Maine" swept the nation, and the U.S. declared war. The war itself was incredibly short. It was over in just a few months, but it shattered what was left of Spain's colonial empire. In the aftermath, the United States gained control over Cuba and acquired Puerto Rico and the Philippines as territories. This was the moment that really transformed the U.S. into a global power, with interest in both the Caribbean and the Pacific.
So let's just pull back for a second and look at this incredible century of growth. It's a story that transformed a small republic into a true continental power.
When you look at this timeline, you can really see the different tools America used to expand. There were these amazing real estate deals, like the Louisiana and Alaska purchases. There was annexation, which is how Texas joined. And of course, there was war, which led to the acquisitions from Mexico and Spain. Piece by piece, a nation was built.
So think about it. In just over 100 years, those 13 states became a nation that spanned a continent and reached across the seas. The speed and scale of this growth were just astonishing, and it absolutely set the stage for America's rise as a world power. And that leaves us with the final, critical question. What would the arrival of this new global power mean for the rest of the world?